Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final day of the spring split here at the SPL. My name's Tom, and I'm joined here by Taco. We're going to be your hosts for the next 4 matches. 4 matches at least. Just like yesterday as we visited Europe, we do have some interesting tie implications, so we'll take a look at that. As we celebrate the finish of the spring split, we'll also celebrate Smite's birthday. It's been 3 years since we've officially been out, and so we're going to have some fun.
And it should be a pretty exciting time all around. Lots of appreciation packs coming through with the sales and so much more. So make sure that you guys log into Smite and check everything that we have to offer during this exciting time period. Yeah,
right now we've had a different sale every day. It's going to be 25% off on the Norse chest. And of course, your first wins of the day are going to bring you some gems as well. So make sure you win. Stop screwing up your casuals. And we're going to also have fun with more sales. Hit Point is also having fun. If you're going to get some nice stuff in-game with those gems, get some nice stuff out of game. 15% off over at Hit Point. That's going to be Smite stuff as far as your clothes are concerned. These guys, you got like a hat or something, right?
I have a beanie, actually, but I'm not sure if they have that available. But at the same time, there's still plenty of other pretty interesting things that you can pick up from Hit Point, so make sure you check it out.
Like we said, though, as we get into the nitty-gritty, a lot of exciting matches. We'll take a look. 4 matches to conclude our spring split today. We'll start off with SoaR versus Noble, and then move on to Flashpoint and ALG.
And for SoaR versus Noble, that's certainly a matchup that a lot of people have been anticipating, considering that it's a really good standpoint to figure out where these two teams are going to be leading off into that gauntlet seeding.
So as we take a look at it, Eager will finish the day against LG, and then Gabe, of course, takes on E-United. Eager is up at top in Luminosity number 2 with E-United in number 3, and we actually have some interesting scenarios here. Like I said, tie breakers, and it's all about how these teams do. So if ALG and Noble wind up with the same outcome, when ALG takes on Flashpoint and when Noble take on SoaR, if they both win, if they both split, or if they both lose, that means that 5 and 5 is going to stay the same number. So we're going to see them tied up, and we'll have to have them play each other. And if E-United wound up with a split, and LG up in number 2 wind up losing against Eager today, that means we'll have a tie there as well, Taco. So we're going to see a tie break there if that happens.
And I'm sure that when it comes down to Eager and Luminosity, those two teams are certainly not looking to drop a game to the other.
I mean, these teams have been relatively successful all throughout the course of the season, so I don't anticipate any real knockups as far as some of those matches are concerned. But at the end of the day, I think this is one of the more thicker days that we have in the SPL, and it's kind of fun that that's how we're going to end everything off. But if you want some new beginnings, that's what the caster's for. We've got an exciting new tournament coming up here for anybody out there that thinks that they can spit with the best of us. Thecaster.tv is where you can toss your situation, or your application, excuse me, to see if you want to be a part of it. It is a 1-minute video telling us why you think you should, could, and will be the caster here on hi-rez TV. Also, by the way, 10 grand is the grand prize.
And I think that that's certainly probably one of the most exciting aspects of it is that $10,000 prize. I mean, I want to try out for it.
Well, too late. Taco's sitting here like, I should have just stretched out for one more split. Joined up in the summer split, joined this tournament. Because, of course, anybody is free to. I've had a lot of people ask me on Twitter, actually, you know, do I need experience? Can I do it from Canada? So, one, the nice thing is that it has been updated. So, worldwide, you can go ahead and try out. And also, 2, you don't have to have any experience. Of course, it's going to help, but when I did my first cast, I hadn't casted anything besides, you know, muting the TV and trying stuff over the NBA. So absolutely give it a shot. I mean, you didn't cast till you
Xbox.
Actually casted.
Yeah, that was a really fun time. Go ahead, you know.
It wasn't a fun time for any of us involved, but I think we have a fun time across the way. SoaR versus Noble is the one that we're going to start off with. Noble has been a real surprise to some people, but honestly, the composition of this team shouldn't surprise anybody. You've got 2 players, the duo lane that played together earlier, the jungle and the solo lane played together on console, and then, of course, a superstar in the mid lane. And then across the way at SoaR, this is a team that I think people wanted a little bit more out of.
You've got the veteran versus the, I guess, newcomer in this sort of experience with MLC facing off against Met Yankee, excuse me, not Met Yankee, andinster. and then on top of that, you do have Chapo going off in the jungle against Homiefe, which I think will be also another interesting matchup.
I'm really excited to see the Uzzy versus fineokay over there in the solo lane for SoaR. That's the dynamic that I'm interested in. You mentioned the jungler v jungler. I'm interested in the right side versus the right side, whether it's solo and jungle versus solo and jungle. That's what I want to see. Standing by, we've got Anatoly and Hinduman. They're going to bring us SoaR versus Noble. Let's check it out.
Thanks so much, Analyst. And yes, me and Tully are standing by. We're starting to pick some bands here. Noble versus SoaR Gaming. The analysts were talking there, Tully, a lot about like what matchups we could potentially see. Every single one of these matchups is very interesting and interesting to look at. I guess,
very dynamic is the right keyword to use between these two teams. Very aggressive is the junglers between Homiefe and Chapo, especially Chapo, trying to lead the charge for his team. You know, they've been struggling a little bit earlier on the split. They're getting themselves a little bit further ahead. They want to be able to battle themselves through this gauntlet phase. If they do 2-0 here, they'll put themselves at 8 points, whereas SoaR is currently at 7, so that'll be one step above that ladder.
Chang'e first pick.
That is some really spicy meta changes very quickly.
We say spicy a lot, but that is kind of strange to see Chang'e go to the first pick material after likes of Kabrak and Sylvanas ban.
Sometimes metas shift between splits. Sometimes it changes literally overnight, and this has just been one of these picks that's been developed over the course of this split. Eager's been bringing it out very often in their games. Then we saw Obey Alliance as well bringing it out, and now Noble feeling very confident picking it up.
Well, the question is that will we see Chapo play in the jungle where we've seen some of this Chang'e come to, or will it be going the mid lane here, which is something that seems a little bit more unusual?
To me, it would be very surprising if Elchapo were to play the Chang'e in the jungle. He's more of an aggressive assassin kind of style, in your face, wants to make the plays. Now, Chang'e can do that, but has to be more cautious about the positioning of your character whenever you're engaging these team fights. And Chapo is not one that's going to shy away from being the frontliner.
And on top of that, now Fafnir and Terra locked in for SoaR Gaming, as you can see. Very tanky frontline lineup with a Zeus on the back line, dealing a lot of damage. This is a sort of situational comp that we see quite often. Noble focusing their bands now towards Hunters. And there's another hyper carry to an extent, like another high damage dealer for SoaR.
Very late game hyper carry on Artemis, and it works out very well with the Fafnir, obviously, because before you max out that steroid attack speed, you're going to be relying on the coerce that Fafnir brings to you. And not only that, the Fafnir is going to help out the Zeus get extra enhance to get the extra stacks on Noble.
Thor and Rama, the final 2 picks here for Noble Esports, which tells me Chang'e will be in the mid lane more than likely. We could see Nike in the mid lane and then solo lane Chang'e, but I guess we'll see what the last pick will be here to really dictate that. Batz locked in. Gets all the way through after a lot of talk about Batz just lately, Tully. He's now the final pick and not the first.
From yesterday being first picked or banned primarily in all the sets in Europe, now to being last pick in North America, it's very exciting to see how over the regions just changing the meta between picks and bans. Batz is going to provide a lot of control here for SoaR Gaming. Homiefe is going to be relying on synergizing his ultimate with andinster Zeus just to be able to control these jungle encounters.
Well, both of them do have some global rotation available to them. Terra, obviously, with the Wrath of Terra, will be able to give the mobility for her team to get around the map a little bit more. But then you've got Chapo on that Thor, one of his classic go-to gods for Chapo here in the jungle, with a semi-global rotation ability, and Rama too.
They're having a lot of burst damage on Elchapo as well, depending on what he wants to max out between the Hammer or the Berserker Barrage. Looking at the composition out of SoaR, there's a few disrupts against the Berserker Barrage. You have the walls closing in from fineokay in the solo lane. You're also going to have the stun coming out of the Fafnir's Hammer.
Well, Wubbn's going to take a bit of free poke on this left-hand side here. Homiefe, though, showing presence to the left-hand side of the map at the beginning and now in lane. So it doesn't look like they want to give Terra an advantage early on against Nike. They're going to actually send Homiefe and Vetium to clear this wave quickly. They will have wave clear advantage against Rama Bacchus, I want to say here, Tully, if they position this right.
They should be able to, especially if Homiefe can find a potential crit here on the wave. This is a nice idea for SoaR to protect Vetium on the Artemis. Trying to get her out of the early laning phase is going to give him an advantage over Wowy playing this Ram.
I almost feel like I would have preferred a Guardian there over the Batz, really. But meanwhile, in the mid lane, Batz has managed to go towards and continue. Sorry, not Batz in the mid lane, and instead we actually saw the other way around. Homiefe, pressure onto Wubbn and Wowy now. Wowy and Wubbn did look to invade, as you'd expect. They should hit level 2 just a little bit quicker than their opposition lane.
Doing a lot of damage here as Homiefe onto Wowy, but still the clear will favor the dual lane out of Noble just because of this Astral Arrows. Now hitting level 2 is both Wubbn and Wowy, but instead not looking to play too aggressive here because of the threat of the trap coming out of the Artemis.
Well, mid lane andinster and Jigz are now going to go to the speed buff of Homiefe on the SoaR side of the map. At the same time, though, Noble have already invaded the blue buff with Uzzy and Chapo combining to pressure fineokay.
Surprisingly enough, Noble's getting the opportunity to do this invade. No responses on the side of SoaR because of the fact that it's an early game Terra. Terra not one to really have too much control up until she hits about level 3 or 4 when she has every single point dedicated into her kit, and then she's able to combo that with her dash.
Well, here we go. Leaping from Homiefe after the flop down from Wubbn. Overhand smash, forcing the meditate out of Wubbn as well there. Interesting trade-off between the two. Surprising, though, that I'm seeing Homiefe here. I don't see the advantages totally of sending the jungler to the duo and not the mid, and then send the support to mid instead.
So the in-hands of the Batz is going to hit harder than the Bacchus, and that's what they're really relying on. These small little 2v2 skirmishes in the jungle for SoaR is heavily going to favor them, especially if Vetium can find these crits off of his passive, making sure that you build the stacks off of your passive, you get 5% crit per stack of that, and that's something that SoaR could potentially rely on, despite being out-cleared at level 1 and 2.
Well, the key here now is Jigz is going to be further ahead than Homiefe, but he will hit level 5 a little bit quicker. Surprising when you've got a Batz, you don't want him to be hitting level 5 first, but him and andinster in the mid lane should be able to pressure soon. Left-hand side, Homiefe still staying with Vetium now that Wubbn has come back towards this lane as well.
Wow, he's still doing a good job sticking with his Guardian. They did a little bit of a bait earlier between Homiefe and Wubbn, where the Batz uses Purification Beads, and then Wubbn was forced to respond in kind with his meditation of his own, but that's going to be a shorter cooldown than that defensive relic, and Homiefe could be in a little bit of trouble considering that it's still not going to be up for 90 seconds, and the level 5s are about to come out.
Well, with no first blood on the table, it's about a 300 gold lead at the moment for Noble. They've just done a better job of farming the map overall. Mid lane, andinster dropping that ult very early on. Unfortunately, though, that Noble did manage to disengage from that just before the damage came through.
Chapo is one that normally aggresses on very like in the backline, penetrates it very deeply, but at the same time, he's not afraid to disengage if he gets a little reward. Using his aggressiveness just to bait out the ultimate from Zeus is now going to put him in a nice position to look for the kill opportunity in mid.
Well, the flop from Wubbn was very good there, forcing the beads from andinster. If andinster would have had his ultimate available for that moment there, could have spelled demise for Wubbn, but in the end, andinster's beads for a flop, not all doom and gloom. Noble will be happy with that one.
Not too shabby. Right side mid Harpies are about to respawn, but I don't think Noble really care for these. Instead, they're going to continue to put pressure onto andinster. They might even look to flank them on the left-hand side, but instead, not wanting to cross the mid lane as the minions are crossing over would give vision over to SoaR, so instead, grabbing the right side mids instead.
Yeah, right Harpy's going to go down the way of Noble. Left wants to SoaR, and now pressure in mid lane from Noble again, sorry. They may look to go in on Jigz here, who just jumped over the wall, but I think they're worried about extra pressure from the jungle now, so they waited a second there. Flop didn't hit from Wubbn, which allows Jigz to potentially turn this around. Wubbn's in trouble now, thanks to the Fafnir even from Homiefe. Just pulled him in tower range to pick up an easy first blood. And
it lasted long. Oh, nice triple waxing moon, but nobody else to respond from Noble. Going in, not still going into the sky is Chapo. Like, he actually used the ultimate early on. Maybe that's what he did, and we just didn't catch it on the camera.
Yeah, definitely. And then the waxing moon mid from Stealth was pretty solid there, just to help him disengage. Chang'e rising in multiple roles now is the best way we can talk about this. She's been played originally in the solo lane for a long time, now into the jungle, and now back again towards the mid lane. The bunny rabbit with the buffs, not just to the items, but the bunny rabbit itself, the speed, means that you can stay in lane a lot longer. Staying in lane is so important in this season, Tully.
It's always important to find these kinds of gods that can flex in multiple roles, and normally mages haven't been able to fit that kind of style ever since the beginning of Season 1 and the old school days of Season 0, honestly, because of the fact that there's a lot of invade threat potentials if you ever play this kind of mage style in the solo lane, not to mention in the jungle now. You don't really have to worry about too many invades right off the bat, considering in Season 4, the changes to the timers.
Keep an eye on the net worth on the left. We don't normally talk about it too much overall, but at the start of this game, where Fafnir is compared to Homiefe on that Batz as well, that's the difference we see in this game. Compare the junglers, compare the supports, because this start from SoaR has made this happen.
Well, at the same time, though, you have to look at the Watcher's gift coming out of the supports, and that's going to give them a little bit of a boosted edge over the junglers. Elchapo is also struggling a little bit behind. He is a little bit over on the side of Homiefe.
But there is a difference between Homiefe and the opposite jungler of him, Chapo, in terms of experience gain, just because of how they started things off in the gold generation.
Absolutely. The invades have also been favoring SoaR a little bit in the fact that the blue buffs didn't really matter for fineokay being stripped away from him to start things off, because he went for that mana chalice. And now when he has the shoes of the Magi, he's going to be able to still clear the wave rather effectively. And this is a little surprising, the fact that he opted out of the cooldown reduction boots. Ooh, in the sky.
Could be in a bit of trouble here. Gonna get hit, immediately balls, gonna get the rope but don't dunk down. The snipes from the sky are pretty good from Wowy. Wubbn will pick up the kill for free off that. He's under a bit of pressure himself, but the fineokay already been used, and this is late on the ultimate one more time. Doesn't get as much damage off as he wants from that one, so it's only a 1-for-1 trade overall when you look at how the kills have gone.
Jigz was just too far separated from the rest of his teammates to find a clean-up kill. A nice little pick off there by Chapo, making sure that he dove the backline yet again on this Thor. Shutting down Vetium's Artemis is going to be an important task for Noble, making sure that this Artemis doesn't get online in the mid game. Then Wowy could look for any sort of boxing potential in the 1v1s.
Looking at the two supports now, they're the two with the kills so far this game, Totally. Could be a battle of supports this game. It's one of the matchups we didn't really speak of during the analysis segment when they talk about solo lane and the junglers and the mid laners. These two support players are pretty damn good too.
Absolutely, and both of them have different styles. Now, not to mention the fact that they're both playing very high bursty support characters. You know, obviously Bacchus can flop in, intoxicate. Jigz on the Fafnir can easily separate a teamfight with his ultimate. If he catches anybody there that doesn't have an escape, that's going to be easy pickings for him as well. And looking at the different boot selection between these supports, reinforced Greaves for a Wubbn, trying to get even more protections online with Mark of the Vanguard, whereas Jigz really wants that cooldown reduction.
I think it's really realistic, though, that Bacchus, when he flops into these engagements, he's going to take Zeus damage. He's also going to take the Hombat's fineokay more often than not, but he has to initiate these fights, which means he needs that tankiness, and the tick damage that you'll get from the fact of a fineokay will help to proc those boots to give you a bit more tankiness, too.
Absolutely. Every single tick from SoaR is going to be able to proc those reinforced Greaves, getting 3 protections on both per stack up to 6 times, so getting 18 protections for a relatively short cost, or low cost rather, 1,400 gold. And not to mention, the tankiness out of Bacchus is just naturally higher than that of Fafnir, because Fafnir has to hold on to some of his gold off of his passive just to generate those protections, whereas Wubbn, he just has to stay drunk.
And Fafnir as well, don't forget, he does have an extra gold generation in his kit for having minions die around him, so that does come into play when you look at the gold differential between the two. The level difference is definitely just based off where they start. However, Homiefe has done a good job of actually catching up from being in the support position at the start of this game to now being equal with Chapo in the jungle.
Level 9 will be so important for Wubbn just to find kills. Homiefe is not really afraid despite getting double tapped right off the bat. Noble looking to collapse onto andinster.
And they're going to find it too. They're forcing the beads immediately, and he looks to turn that one around. Nice chain line into 3 targets. Chapo's in a lot of trouble here. Waxing Moon used, but it didn't really find a home that he was looking for. To the sky goes Wowy, though, looking to clean up Homiefe. Homie's having none of that. Vetium, meanwhile, though, has dropped the ball, but he's on his own on that side. Reinforcements, though, have arrived.
The soul laners are both here. Nike jumping in the back, not going to be able to connect, and the rest of SoaR going to chase it down. Uzzy looking for the jump is Jigz, but the rest of Noble were content in recognizing that Uzzy's going to be fine. He's a level 11 Nike, even finishing off Pestilence at this point, that they felt so confident grabbing the oracles.
And the only thing that is left available for SoaR now is the ultimate out of Homiefe. Beads-wise, there's beads still available on Homiefe and on Vetium too, but morals were consumed overall there on the side of SoaR for very little gain.
Really surprised that neither jungler had to even use the purification beads there. Wubbn might be in a little trouble, but he still has to jump. The Fear No Evil didn't catch Wubbn going back into Vetium, and had that happen, Wubbn could have been in a position where he would have gotten trapped by Vetium and nowhere to go.
And in the end, he will get away with that. So Fear No Evil now down from SoaR. Kind of a power play opportunity for Noble if they do recognize it. Wubbn's ultimate, the Intoxicate, very good for securing Gold Fury objectives, especially when the big-time ultimates out of some of these mid laners aren't available.
And this was a small demonstration here by Homiefe, showing just how little damage Wubbn is going to be receiving from him with that build, the Mark of the Vanguard and the Reinforced Greaves, just doing wonders, keeping this Bacchus player alive. We're going to need to see more damage out of Homiefe once he finishes off some of these items between the Hydra's Lament, the Heartseeker. This is the point in time where the Hunbats will really start getting that power spike.
Well, left half is going to go the way of Noble here as well. Goal difference between the two teams still around 400, which all comes down to that first blood that Noble got. Experience a different story. This just shows that Noble are farming more effectively as a team here, Tolly.
There might be sharing too much on the side of SoaR as well, not really electing to spread it out. andinster taking a lot of damage. Chapo forced the beads away, trying to keep it alive though. Nice little stun coming out of MLC Stealth, and a great pickoff by Noble.
Yeah, Stealth with that Waxing Moon after Homiefe fully committed for the kill onto Chapo there. He was hoping andinster's detonate would come back up, hopefully, to be able to finish off Chapo. But in the end, it goes the way of Noble. Now they start the Gold Fury. Wubbn's going to go around and find Jigz. Jigz is running out of time there on his ultimate, so he will be forced to disengage for now. You can see him now turning back into the cheeky little dwarf as well. Vetium, watching this fight closely, has Boar available, and Noble seem to recognize this.
That Thor is a big threat, but the only reason why Noble is engaging this is the fact that andinster's ultimate is off cooldown, but going on to Vetium, forcing out the board.
No beads. beads.
Oh, Chapo
No
got
beads,
stuck
gets
in the
trapped as
trap.
well. Chapo committed. The rest of his team did not because they were on the Gold Fury. Chapo traded his life there, it seemed, Tolly. It didn't look like it at first, but it seems that was the call.
It was definitely worth. He tried to disengage, but without the purification beads, he gets stunned into the trap, which cripples you. So even though he threw out that hammer, he can't teleport to it. So, but that's still a favorable trade for Noble picking up the Gold Fury. But SoaR, they want to get at least 750 gold back in their pockets.
Wubbn has no Intoxicate to contest this one at all, and it looks like Noble will disengage and give this up to SoaR. SoaR do manage to answer back some of the gold difference that he lost at that Gold Fury.
If Wubbn had the Intoxicate, I would definitely like to see him jump in there, pop that ultimate, make sure that he secures that objective for himself, because that would be a worthy sacrifice as well. Because the fact that if that Portal Demon is down, SoaR are not in a position to necessarily go for Fire Giant. They don't really have sustain in their composition, with the exception of the Monolith from fineokay, and that's not really enough to start sieging the Tier 1 tower. So even though they sacrificed Elchapo for the Gold Fury, the respawn was a little bit coming up. Wubbn could have potentially looked for another power play.
If he could have found that power play too, it would have been interesting, because Noble had a lot of people in base there. They could have immediately gone through that portal and took a fight against SoaR that probably weren't really prepared for it. But that's all hearsay anyway. It was a possibility that never really came about. Approaching 30 minutes now, 2-2. The gold lead is in Noble's favor after the Gold Fury, even though the Portal Demon went down. It's not been a whole lot of fighting, Tolly, but it's been picks more than anything else based off people using relics and ultimates.
It's all about the specific targets. Both of these junglers are looking to find the engagements. Noble's been doing a good job of focusing on Vetium. Whether or not they find the kill all the time on him, they're able to get him out of these team fights. Finding a pick in the laning phase, in the dual lane, rather, was a great idea for Chapo. Hasn't really elected to continue the pressure there just because of the maximization that he's trying to do in all across the map, finding the farm.
Jigz going to get hit by the double tap. Fantastic wall follow-up there as well. But Jigz not too worried. Quite tanky now at level 11. Has that sovereignty online. fineokay making the rotation. But both teams starting to focus their attention a little bit more to the right-hand side now this Gold Fury's down.
And they even forced out the Terra's blasting. Nice waxing moon, doing a lot of poke, forcing out the meditation from Jigz. No real response from SoaR Gaming, though. Not really wanting to commit with that Fear No Evil until the escapes are down on Noble.
It really feels Noble are trying to fight. They're trying to find a pick and trying to force an engagement, but they're just not on the same page as a team, it seems, for the most part. The waxing moon there, you know, it was on point, it was good, but there was no follow-up available. Chapo's hammer was down. Wubbn wasn't in position for a flop. They could have continued that. They've got to try and time these combos a little bit better.
It's only the first step here, because it forced the purification beads out of andinster and the meditation out of Jigz, so that's going to be long cooldowns.
And now the speed buff invaded here. Wubbn's going to flop straight onto andinster, focusing him, Chapo to the sky, and he's a little bit drunk right now. Ooh. He drops the ult on himself there, andinster, so Chapo changes his mind about continuing to go in.
He had the purification beads. I'm surprised that Chapo didn't commit onto andinster because there was no purification beads of him. The fear was the Fear No Evil from Homiefe, but with the purification beads being available, all he had to do was dunk onto andinster, pop the beads immediately, use Berserker Barrage, and then he can't get interrupted from there.
Very true indeed. Wasn't the case, however, for now, so Noble are going to go back to farming in the mid lane. They are the aggressors for the most part here. SoaR a little bit more reactionary. Homiefe, the one that's been stepping up the most. Jigz, though, when he does land those hammers, you can see how Homiefe really wants to try and engage off it.
MLC Stealth going for a very defensive build, having the Warlock Sash already at 26 stacks at the 15-minute mark. This is an old-school MLC kind of style of build where he used to do the Warlock Sash into the E-Staff, Mail of Renewal every now and then. Vetium. Nice wall by Chapo, though.
There's a trap. Chapo's taking a lot more damage than he wanted to there. He's going to run because Jigz is on the way too. Wowy's hanging around, but there's the pop from Wrath of Terra. Now that's going to allow them to close the gap. Homie's going really deep for this. He's going to find Wowy, but the beads were still available, as was the Aegis. Wowy's in a lot of trouble. He will get to the sky in time, though. The turnaround could be here. Wubbn's on the way in as well. Third snipe didn't hit. Vetium will clean up Wowy, though. Jigz will disengage. Noble were just a little bit late on the rotation overall. Their stealth was pinned away by andinster.
The meditation from Wubbn couldn't keep his hunter alive. Great play from SoaR all around, finding a nice little pick onto Wowy. They really wanted Elchapo originally, but Chapo was doing a good job baiting himself long enough, not using his relic on the purification beads, forcing out the ultimate out of Vetium was just the original goal out of Noble, and then to disengage. But because of the stun into the trap combo yet again, we saw just how poked out Chapo got, and he couldn't re-engage in that encounter once the rest of SoaR dove that tier 1 tower.
And not only that, fineokay's ultimate on that Terra, it always comes into play. It's extra mobility Totally. It allows them to chase down just a little bit quicker. And so that was a bit of a rough situation for Noble. They're the ones that ganked, but got counter-ganked much better. They've got to be aware of that next time round. Make sure fineokay can't do anything.
Andinster using that Aegis, but a nice little wall from Elchapo. Nobody else, though, to respond. Trying to go back into safety of this mid teammates. Aegis buying him a little bit of time, along with the purification beads. Nice disengage. Detonate, not going to be enough.
And now the whole team of SoaR group in mid lane. Wowy was thinking about rotating in as well, but Chapo not in this fight anymore. Forced back to base. He'll go back to the left-hand side. SoaR will also join him on the left, but their attention is being towards the Gold Fury. Jigz on zone duty, looking to keep 3 members busy, but Uzzy sniffs it. Uzzy sniffs the SoaR trying to do this, and Jigz was just a distraction.
Having the ultimate available is the Nike player out of Noble, trying to look for a play. Jumps onto Homiefe in the backline. Terra's Blessing being used. Jigz going to disengage. A nice little double stun. Vetium doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, Vetium just already picked up stealth, and now Chapo goes in onto Vetium, but then takes a lot more damage in response. Wubbn steps on a trap he wasn't really looking for. Now he's going to get crushed by the walls too. Wubbn's still alive. Jig's going to ult. That's definitely Wubbn's demise there. Vetium with the credit for the kill. Wowy with the snipes looking towards Vetium, but the Aegis will buy him enough time to get away from that. Uzzy, different story. He falls down. Round the back is Chapo, but SoaR cleaning house here, totally.
3 dead on the side. Make that 4 for Noble. Vetium starting up the Gold Fury. Chapo around the backhand side. He could find the kill here with a double tap, but he misses the stun. Couldn't set himself up for that double tap. And the recognition from SoaR, the fact that Chapo was around the corner, but not going to be a steal. I like the idea and the mindset, but just not on the mark.
But the problem is now he's got a respawn of 33 seconds, so it's going to be a 4v5 minimum for those 30 seconds. 2 members still dead alongside Chapo. Only stealth and Wubbn available, which means not only will they get the Gold Fury here, SoaR, they will also get the Portal Demon.
You always have to consider, if you steal this objective and you fail, or like if you don't steal the objective and you fail, like what are you going to lose in response? And losing this Portal Demon is an additional 750 gold going in the way of SoaR. And they were originally down a little bit of gold. It wasn't too much to write home about. It was about 2,000, but now, ever since that 2,000 gold lead by Noble, it's been a 5,000 gold swing. Now 3,000 in the favor of SoaR.
Gotta say though, Tolly, SoaR is looking a lot better as this season has gone on. From where they started off, where people were talking about, ooh, this super team that's coming out of North America, to now like, well, this is just a team that's not working out. But they're starting to find their pace now.
You know, they've definitely had a rough start to start off the split. They lost against Eager. They lost against Luminosity. You can't really fault them necessarily for that. Very difficult games, and a little bit out of control for them in week number 3, where they couldn't field a competitive roster against E United. But now, after this bye week, SoaR has been looking really solid. They have the players that have so much experience that they've been able to really make the necessary adjustments to the later stages of the split, even adapting to fineokay joining them recently in the solo lane.
I'm talking about fineokay a little bit more on that Terra. He's been very plug and play for them, which is very difficult to find for a team member, to be able to walk into the roster and not really mix things up too much with your current one, or make the rookie mistakes of being new to the Pro League, you know, like, oh, I took a fight that I shouldn't have taken there. He's very plug and play, and he looks like he's very solid here.
He's had a lot of experience in the Challenger Cup. Originally a solo laner, went back to jungle during his team, and now back to his home in that solo lane, showing us he can even flex from Warriors and Guardians. He's not really too worried about what he plays. He just wants what's best for the team, and playing with Jigz, Homiefe, and Andinster, these are the 3 people that can really give him a lot of advice in terms of how he will fit into their style.
Well, the problem is with the start of this game so far, Noble's been the aggressor. I was going to say it's up to SoaR to be aggressive now, because I don't think Noble will be, but Chapo was already hunting for a kill onto fineokay. Now that he dunks down here, though, that could be a go sign for SoaR on the left-hand side. They're going to get a tier 1 tower already, but Wowy's well aware of it. What's going on here? fineokay is getting a lot of free damage onto Uzzy. Uzzy still had his ultimate available there, so it wasn't too risky. They will get a tier 1 in response.
Noble recognized they couldn't really defend on the left-hand side, so they wanted to make at least something in return on the right. And Terra can't really necessarily defend on her own 1v2, and that was the option. Nice little board from Vetium, but
great flop. Wow, Wubbn got that off so quick. He will get hit on the backside of the ball going towards Wowy there, but just in time to avoid that ball. That could have been an awkward position with his meditate being down too.
Absolutely, not to mention the stun into the trap could have spelled a demise for Wubbn. That combination is more detrimental than a lot of people consider, because the fact that the cripple is not necessarily the hardest CC, but it's just one that will continue, like, it doesn't get diminishing returns, rather.
Yeah. Vetium in the mid lane right now on this Artemis. We've not really spoke about him this game, but he is just, not necessarily silently here, Tolly, but consistently been in the right position and picked up multiple kills, involved in 6 of the 8 kills as well that SoaR have got. His build is really getting towards that late game stage 2 now.
He was the first death on the side of SoaR, but after that point in time, Vetium has just been stepping it up the whole time around. Every single dunk by Elchapo was completely countered by Vetium's board instead of the purification beads, which is so important because now he saves that cooldown relic as it's longer than the board anyway. And not only that, there's a huge counter-engage mechanic with that board that's just going to ping-pong every time Chapo dives that backline.
And not just on the board, but the traps as well have been very good from Vetium. The traps aren't necessarily utilized as well as they could be in most levels of games, but when they are played by someone who's very strong and dominant with this god, you can really show how important the traps can be in these team fights.
Vetium has just been such an impressive player all around ever since the days that he's been an enemy in Season 2. He showed us why he was able to really control a lot of the game for enemy back then, you know, making it to second place in Worlds in 2016. So this player is also very young. He's like, what, 17?
He's a young guy, but for me, for Vetium's point of view, I like the fact that you can always rely on him in the late game to be there. He'll always be there in the late game and be what you need in the late game, which is a hyper carry. If you can get one that's like, okay, I'm a full build hunter now, that's where Vetium really shines more than most. If he gets going in the early game, then you're going to have even more issues in the late stages.
Definitely a very all-around diverse player is Vetium, but SoaR looking pretty solid at this point. 3,000 gold lead still comfortably around the 23-minute mark. Not too much currently. They still have a nice little level advantage specifically over those hunters. Vetium very close to that level 20 mark.
Yeah, he just hit level 19 now, so that's a 3-level difference. The Gold Fury spawning here, and this Gold Fury, very important to both teams right now. With the gold being so close, this would even things back up for Noble or actually start to catapult SoaR into a decent lead.
Seems that both teams want to position themselves around this little objective. Homiefe, though, 2-level lead over Elchapo, is going to be doing a little bit extra damage here. Also has to be very mindful, is Noble, considering the fact that this Batz does have Blink.
Uzzy in a bit of an awkward spot here, just going to get CC chained for a little while. They don't invest too much into him, however. fineokay going to make some zone work there for SoaR to start up the Gold Fury, already at 50%, but here comes Noble, forcing the reset.
Trying to find the right angle to approach this. Not on the mark is Jigz on the hammer, forced to disengage a little bit, but the poke has been done.
Keep an eye on andinster here. He's the one set at the back on that Zeus. We've not spoken about him much, but he is 005, not dying yet in this game, even though he has had some focus put into him. Jigz and fineokay going to go to the front. Nice stun onto 2. Jigz now going to ult as well as the andinster ult is dropped. Chapo's in a bit of trouble on the left-hand side. He's one hit from death, and fineokay will punch him down. Homiefe cleans up Uzzy. That's the front line of Noble dead.
The stun not on the mark onto Wowy. Is going to buy him a little bit of time going into the sky, trying to survive, but Wubbn caught on the backhand side. 3 members dead already from Noble. Wubbn's going to make that number 4 SoaR. They got off the gold here. They're finding all these kills.
This should be a Phoenix as well, Tully. There's enough minions coming with them, and the fact that Jigz is here with a Terra too, the sustain is going to be good enough for them to take this Phoenix for free on this left-hand side. Stealth on the right. He's just going to continue to farm the right-hand side because there's not much he could really do about this. Or is he? Are they going to try and
They're going to try to end here.
No way.
So much confidence on the side of SoaR. There's 4 towers up. This Titan is going to be extremely tanky, but Jigz, his ultimate is not available. He did have the meditation, but with all these minions, it eliminates the backdoor protections, and SoaR find the win.
It's weird to see Stealth go over to that left-hand side, right-hand side there, but there's not much he could have done without his ultimate there anyway.
I was wondering where he was on that map,
too.
actually. The towers were going down fine and dandy, and I recognized, like, SoaR could potentially get a Phoenix here, no problem, and there could have been potential defense here, or at least a sacrificial lamb on the side of MLC Stealth, giving his life up for a Phoenix to at least allow his teammates to revive and then potentially chase down some of these kills, could have potentially got Noble back into just a little advantage.
Yeah, maybe at the same time, though, Noble had given up the hope in that game. When you look at the actual kill difference between the two teams as well, maybe that was just like, okay, let's just call it a day. If I try and defend this, we could probably hang on a little bit longer, but are we really going to get our way back into this? I didn't think they were that far behind, but the team fights didn't start going their way at all.
No, not at all. The Wax and Moon just wasn't as detrimental compared to the ultimates coming out of andinster Zeus.
That's true. Well,